I'm sorry, Kim.
That's okay.
And you'll see the green light come on, and then you'll hear your voice. You know you're being heard, all right? Okay, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear it? But he's checking out to make sure. All right.
I'd like to call this meeting the Southbury Planning Commission to order. If everybody can join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Let's see, we're all here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we don't need a...
Don't have to see anybody.
Okay. New business. Kopchick re-subdivision, lot number 2, 104 Nelson Road. We're just receiving this, that's it, right? We're not doing anything else at that point?
It's been reviewed.
Has it been reviewed?
No, he's waiting for stuff.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's got to go to inland wetlands.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
yeah, his suggestion is that it's just reviewed by the commission. Received, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Received by the commission because there's going to be delay until inland wetlands takes some action.
Okay, so we'll put it on the agenda for October, what date is it?
You might want to go out another month.
Okay, November?
November, yeah,
November, what is it, 20th?
because it's going to take inland wetlands at least a couple months.
Okay. The November meeting, room 205, 7 PM. Okay. Other business. Terranowitz, the November meeting is going to be, I think it's the 20th. Wait, hang on one second. It's 22nd. Room 205, 7 PM. Right?
November? No, it's the 15th.
15th. Oh, we
Special
changed it.
meeting, yeah. It's normally the 8th. It got changed to the 15th.
Ah, we moved it up. Okay, so make it the 15th. All right, 15th at 7 PM. All right. Under other business, Terranowitz Memorial Bench Discussion, Main Street South, Planet Fitness. Whoever's here for that, step right up to the microphone. Anyone's here? Okay. You?
That's you.
All right.
Karaoke. I'm really here kind of in a twofold role this evening. Patty Tarnowitz sent a photo of a streetscape bench that she wanted to replace in front of the old Southbury Food Center. And back in early August, Ty Kern got a hold of me, and she wanted to understand the history of streetscape. It's really why I'm here tonight. In the late 80s, when streetscape commenced, the streetscape committee and the Board of Selectmen selected the lamp poles, selected the trees, selected the widths of the sidewalks, selected the streetscape benches. The feeling of the commission at that time, the planning commission and the selectmen, is they wanted products that at least had a 50-year lifespan, municipal quality. And at the time, the highway department would install the selected streetscape bench, which was a beautiful cast iron product with teak boarding on it. And there were many other municipalities, and they had a very good longevity. So when the highway department or the directors would go along, and when the town wanted to add a bench because someone from the community may have wanted one, they installed the concrete pad, and then they anchored the bench to it. Over time, when commissions changed and streetscape kind of just, took on its a life of its own, there were members of the community that wanted to do memorial benches. And that's where it fell apart, okay? And I had no issue with the memorial benches. However, we've probably had 5 different highway directors since that time who had 5 different ideas about streetscape, and essentially they didn't like streetscape. So made my job tough. To top that off, the company that provided the benches, they were out of Boston, closed shop. We found other companies, but then the members of the community that wanted to do a memorial bench were disappointed that they had to install a concrete base, and they didn't want to pay for the streetscape bench that the town had selected. All in all, at that time, a concrete pad and a bench installed was about $3,000. And again, when we started off, we never knew anything about memorial benches, all right? We were trying to do them approximately every 500 feet. We were trying to install a bench. So it's fallen through the cracks. And now there are memorial benches out in the street, and none of them match or have any rhyme or reason. I don't know how to respond to Patty. I'm not in a position to approve this. This isn't I'm not the one to do that. Only your commission is. So I don't know if it's time again to revisit this, as well as components of streetscape, which were the benches, trees that have died, have never been replaced, the upcoming work that the state's going to be doing at Exit 14, which is going to take out all of those trees. I call it the $1 million worth of trees in front of Sacred Heart Church. They'll be gone, and I'm sure what they're going to probably suggest and put back will be 3 trees versus, the 40 that are out there. I'm just kind of at arm's length with people when they ask me, because I don't have any supported highway, and I don't know how we implement the memorial benches, and I really think your commission has to give us some guidance, or the public. I mean, if I were before you this evening and I said I'd like to do a memorial bench for a family member, I would need some direction. That's it. No, there hasn't. No, there hasn't. But I know they vary at what I call the Veterans Park. They vary. They vary throughout the street. And it's. Yes, 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 yes.
Weren't they on cement pads?
One more time?
Weren't they on, they were installed on a cement pad, right?
Yes, all of them have been installed on cement bases. That's not the issue. The issue is what is being installed onto them. You know, some of them are plastic. Some of them, you know, aren't the original, what I call the 50-year municipal type of product.
I would suggest we need a survey to see what needs to be replaced, if
Yeah.
they need to be replaced.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
Someone-
then we'll make a,
yeah. And for what it's worth, you know, because I do enjoy the streetscape program, I'm more than willing on, as a kind of an agent, a streetscape, to get that information for your commission. I can have it for you at your next meeting.
that'd be great.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, all right.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Good night.
thank you. Next up, number 2, Hollow Swamp Estates, to validate the subdivision.
Chairman, members of the commission.
You have to press the button on that, too. You can pull it right out there if you want. There you go.
Okay, thank you. My name is Franklin
You gotta
Dempsey.
press the
Make
button,
sure
too.
it's on.
There you go.
Okay,
There you
all
go.
right, thank you. My name is Franklin Pillacy. I'm a land use attorney. My office address is 235 Main Street in Watertown, Connecticut. The Hollow Swamp subdivision has a little bit of background I'd like to present. It was approved by the Planning Commission on August 19th, 2008. And on August 17th, or thereabouts in 2021, the owner, Mr. Makris, received a letter stating that the Planning Commission had vacated the subdivision approval due to a lapse of time. And thereafter, he received a letter releasing 2 subdivision bonds that were posted at the time. If we back up, the subdivision was approved, the subdivision map was recorded on the land records, and the bonds were posted, and the open space was conveyed to the town of Southbury, and that open space conveyance still remains a matter of record. Now, Mr. Makris objects to the vacating of the subdivision on grounds that the subdivision statutes do not call for or contemplate the expiration of a subdivision in situations where no subdivision work is required. And that, the court cases and the commentators tell us that this subdivision, being all on public highways, did not require construction of any improvements. The word that the statute uses is work, and subdivision work is described in court cases and in the statute as improvements to the public roads or additional subdivision roads or subdivision improvements that have to be built as part of the subdivision approval. In this case, the lots are on an existing public highway. There are no subdivision or work improvements, sometimes called public improvements, to be done, and therefore the statute does not apply and does not allow or does not provide for any expiration. The subdivision would remain valid basically forever, in perpetuity. So we're asking your agency tonight to revalidate and adopt a resolution stating that the subdivision approval granted initially, and I have the date here, on August 19th, 2008, remains valid. Now, again, that would ratify the open space conveyance that, again, is recorded already, and the 2 subdivision bonds that were released, the 2 bank accounts that were assigned for those bonds actually remain in place. Although Mr. Makris has access to them, he hasn't touched them, and he's prepared to reassign those subdivision bonds for the original purposes for which they were intended. So during the summer, I've had correspondence with Attorney Kalin, and I sent him a copy of my opinion and an opinion from a colleague that supports the position that we're presenting to you tonight. So it's a little bit unusual, but it's also a little bit unusual that you have a subdivision that's entirely on existing public highways.
Right, thank you. So some of us are familiar with this. So we have to make a couple of motions to kind of rescinding our last decision and motion on it again, and then do a couple things for you on that. Is the owner gonna begin to build? Is that why he wants to do this?
Well, what brought, he never knew that there was a motion to vacate the approval, and he actually sold a lot. Didn't actually go to the closing, he had a contract to sell it, and the contract buyer came into Town Hall here to begin the process of building on his lot, and he was told, oh, that's not any longer an approved subdivision. So that's what brought all this. 'Cause
Okay.
the letter to him, for whatever reason, didn't get to him in a timely manner. So a period of time went by before he even knew about this.
Okay. Tom, are you okay with that?
Yeah, Tom Kalen, the town attorney. I concur that the commission probably should do a vote tonight to rescind their prior vote, which found it in expiration. So we put it back to where it was. And I believe Attorney Pillisi has stated his client's ready to have the bond put back
Repost
in
the bond.
place.
Yep.
And do that promptly.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Thank you.
Do you have the date of our motion to rescind?
Yes.
Yeah, I do too.
You did it at your July 27th, 21 meeting. And you had two votes, one to rescind and one to revoke the bonds.
7:27, correct? Yep,
Any
okay.
motion?
Sure.
Okay, motion
You have to use your microphone.
Motion to rescind the 7/27/21 vacation of Hollow Swamp.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Rescinded? And then we have to
Do you want a second one?
we have to do the other one too, right?
Okay. I'll make a motion to reinstate Hollow Swamp subdivision, subject to compliance with original conditions, including the reinstatement of the, reassignment, I guess, of the bonds at that time.
Okay, just for the record, there's a soil and erosion
Yes.
bond in the amount of $8,100, and there's a common driveway bond, I believe, in the amount of $25,000.
Yes.
Sounds good. Excellent. All right, I'll second that motion. Ron? Sure.
Just a point of information. It's my understanding that because it's on a highway, okay, it can go on perpetuity. I mean, he can hold the property for 25 or 30 years without building the subdivision. Is that correct?
I think so, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, that if there's no, the time expiration runs on the public improvements that are required to be performed under the subdivision. And if you have one like this where there are no public improvements other than the transfer of the open space, it's essentially completing. It satisfied what it was supposed to do when it transferred the open space.
Right.
And they can go ahead now and sell the lots, and they can sell the lots a week later or 10 years later.
Thank you.
But, so the open space, though, has already been dedicated, so,
Yeah, and it's still in the town's hands, so
yeah.
that's fine. Okay, so the
It
motion on the
depends-
table,
Depends
and
on, yeah.
we second it. Any other discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? You're all
Thank you
set.
very much, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Number 3, Zoning Board of Appeals referral, Pierce Hollow Cemetery. Let's see, I don't think any of these have it. Let's go through these ourselves. Yeah. So everybody read through this, that Vince from SLR did the review on it regarding the applicant would like to, buy the town property. And this is 824 referral for the Board of Selectmen. So we have to give them a positive or negative referral back on this. Everybody kind of read through this and looked at the map regarding the lots that are,
It's
we
just-
skip-
It's just
we're on
the
the wrong
sign,
one?
it's just the sign,
oh, we're on the wrong one?
ground sign.
Oh, sorry, I opened the wrong one. Sorry, guys. Don't mind me. ZBA referral. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. What's that? Here's Hollow, here we are. All right. So everyone definitely went through this, right? Looked at the sign. Any questions? Thoughts on it? I think it looks pretty straightforward.
Is it lit? Is it lit?
That's the memo to CBA.
That's the question I had.
I didn't see that anywhere when I read through it, and that was one of my questions, but it was lit too, I didn't see it.
If
I
we-
would assume that
we
it's
just
probably
make it,
not.
if we just make it comply with our lighting
Here we are,
regulations.
illumination of sign shall conform with optical light standards in section 11, so they do one.
Okay.
Okay. All right. We just have to. Before the vote? Might as well.
Sure, why not?
All right. So I'm just gonna read a letter from the Zoning Board of Appeals to the Planning Commission. Special exception referral, Pierce Hall Cemetery, South Britton Road, pursuant to section 6.3. The zoning regulation planning commission has reviewed and considered the application for special exception to allow the placement of a freestanding ground sign on its property located on South Britton Road. Pierce Hall Cemetery would like to install a freestanding sign on its property located on the South Britton Road, M/B/L16-76-14 in an R60 residential zone. The sign is to be placed on the applicant's property outside the highway right of way. The right of way the location is unusual and is not parallel to the edge of the pavement, but is over 100 feet from the pavement. So the sign for the cemetery. Oh, there we go. The sign to be placed on the applicant's property outside the highway right of way. The right of way, this location is unusual and is not parallel to the edge of the pavement, but is over 100 feet from the pavement. So the sign of the cemetery will be set back from the pavement by approximately 150 feet. The proposed sign meets the location, size, and dimension standards for non-commercial signs in a residential zone as set forth in section 10.7.1 of the zoning regs. As of 2012, the Plan of Conservation Development does not specifically address the question of non-residential signs in a residential district. In this case, the sign is proposed to identify a historic community facility. It can be inferred, however, that the installation of a sign at the property is consistent with the historic preservation goal, quote, to identify and conserve buildings, landscapes, and place of historic significance for the purpose of promoting the educational, cultural, economic, and general welfare of the town and supporting the general character of Southbury as a whole. In conclusion, we find this proposal to be in conformance with the zoning regulations and the Plan of Conservation and Development. Therefore, we recommend approval of this special exception for the installation of a freestanding ground sign for the Pierce Hollow Cemetery. Submitted, Richard Chiaro, Chairman. I'll make a motion to approve it. Or positive referral back to the zoning board anyway. Can we get a second?
Second.
Yep, discussion.
Should we add to the motion that it does have lighting, that as long as it complies with
Section
our
11.
lighting regulations, so we don't make them come back for a second trip?
Yeah, we could do that. And it does say that at the bottom of the application.
That, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
It's in the very last page with a split open. It does say here,
Section 11.
it does recommend, it does refer to 10.7.1. Yep, and it says here illumination of sign shall conform with applicable lighting. It's in their application, so I'm assuming they know it, but we'll put it in the motion to make sure that if it is lit, then they need to go by the regulations, otherwise come back to the planning commission. So we have a motion on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So positive referral back to the zoning board of appeals. Thank you. Let's see, 8-24 referral from the Board of Selectmen. Request to purchase town properties, Berkshire Estates, Marzocolato. I think I pronounced that semi-close. here for this? No one's here for this? Okay. Yeah. So this is pretty straightforward. Everyone look through this? Any questions or thoughts on it before we go into discussion on it? The land does.
And again, we have the referral from, the,
824 from the Board of Selectmen, yeah.
Map?
God, review by SLR. They reviewed this.
Yes. Yep. So SLR did review this, and they think it's conformant with the town and the POCD, and that the properties seem to be fine to, if I'm remembering the right one, if I'm reading correctly. Anybody have any questions on it, or any thoughts, or any reason why we shouldn't give it a positive referral? No?
It's a plus, it goes with our goals.
Yep, absolutely.
Motion to make a positive referral back to the
Okay. On September 21st, 2022, the Board of Selectmen, Planning Commission, to the Planning Commission, RIA 8-24, request to purchase town-owned property, Mazzucalato, Berkshire Estates. Pursuant to Section 8-24 of the Connecticut General Statute and the town's policy concerning disposition of town-owned property, real property, the Planning Commission has considered the request of Greg Mazzucato to purchase town-owned property. Mr. Mazzucato is interested in purchasing 7 town-owned lots, 19A-72-1-4, 19A-72-5-8, 19A-72-9-18, 19A-72-25, 19A-72-26-27, 19A-72-28-23, and 19A-72-31-32 for a total of 1.5 acres, 1.54 acres. Mr. Mazzucato also owns 2 properties identified on the attached map, MBL 19A 72-19-24 and 19A-72-34-38. The total area of the lots is 0.63 acres. These lots are vacant, adjacent to the Pompano River, and inaccessible. He also owns a property in which which his residence is located at 667 Berkshire Road. All the lots are located in an R20 zone. As the town's policy concerning disposition of town-owned real property requires that the town's property can be conveyed only to an adjoining property owner, and the conveyance will result in the reduction of a nonconformity of residential property. In this case, the town properties would be conveyed to the abutting owner and will reduce the nonconformity related to the minimum lot area in R20 zone. Therefore, the conveyance by the town appears to be consistent with the town's policy. Therefore, the Planning Commission at their meeting on September 20th, 2022, voted to recommend that the above said parcel be sold to Greg Mazzucato to be combined with his existing properties. Sincerely, Richard Tiardo, Chairman. We have a motion on the table for a positive referral. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Who made the second?
Abstentions? Ron did.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. 8-3A zoning referral. PDD number 18, Southbury Plaza Electronic Vehicle Charging Stations.
Has that been reviewed?
No, not yet.
We just got.
So we're gonna have to just hear the quick overview and then table it.
Yep.
Good evening, Commissioners. Can you hear me all right? Okay, great.
I think it's on, right? Good tab?
Yeah, I think it is. Okay, excellent. My name is Kristen Motel, for the record. I'm a partner at the law firm Cuddy and Fader. We represent Volta Charging. Mike Dennehy from Volta is here tonight, as well as Peter Pasakis from Kimley Horn Engineering. As you are aware, this matter is on referral from the Zoning Commission for your review tonight. Volta is seeking text amendments to the zoning regulations for PDD 18, which is Southbury Plaza, to permit electric vehicle charging stations with electronic displays near the Stop and Shop. The zoning regulations for the PDD do not accommodate this kind of accessory infrastructure. And to tell you a little bit about Volta, they are a publicly traded company. They operate the largest electric vehicle charging network in the country. And they partner with large retailers like Stop and Shop throughout the state to provide this as an accommodation to Stop and Shop patrons. So when people are grocery shopping for an extended period of time, they can get a charge on their electric vehicle. Volta is unique in the sense that it provides free or subsidized charging as part of its stations. And in order to defray that cost, they have digital displays with electronic advertising on them. Now, the ads are not video. There's no sound. They're completely silent. They are similar in a sense to the accessory infrastructure of a gas station pump. So you pay your credit card, you pull off the pump, and then the video starts, playing on the screen. Volta's a little different because there's no sound, there's no video, they're just static images. And I don't know if you all had a chance to look at the package we provided to the Zoning Commission with some of that information in there, but there are exhibits that show you what these look like. They are, they're not garish, they're very well designed. I shop at the Ridgefield Stop and Shop, they have them there. You don't really notice them, they kind of blend in. They're also located closest to the building entrance because they're trying to target the pedestrians that are going in and out of the Stop and Shop. They are not intended for any off-site visibility. In fact, they're not intended for any visibility for any other store, right? So if you see where we're proposing them, it's all the way down in the corner of the Stop and Shop parking lot. You wouldn't see them from like the McDonald's or the Old Navy or the Panera. So they're set back very, very far. So to that end, we took a stab at amending the PDD regulations. What we did was we added the definition of these electric vehicle charging stations. We also permitted them as accessory uses in the PDD 18. We're allowing the screens when they are associated with subsidized or free charging. And then we're providing parameters for when EV charging stations can have a screen. So for example, we're limiting the size and also requiring no less than 8-second refresh rates, auto dimming, static images, so all of that is built in. And we're here tonight to get your comments. We're doing this around the state, and sometimes, there are other things that are requested, additional setbacks we can put in, landscaping, permitting them as accessory by special exception, capping the number at any location. So we're willing to have that dialogue with you all, and sometimes there are other things that you're also interested in. I will say, and I'll let Mike talk just a little bit about Volta, this model has a limited market, right? So you're not gonna see 6 Volta stations with display screens in a row because the advertising partners are not gonna be interested in that. That's total market saturation, and Volta wouldn't make any money off of that model. So there's a limited cap to this, and I think, everybody is quite aware of the projections for EV, the 2030 initiatives. The Connecticut NEVI plan, which Michael talked a little bit about, was just approved by the federal government. And when it comes to charging infrastructure, the 84 corridor is sorely lacking in that. So Volta's looking to change that and provide that as an amenity to the Southbury residents here. So Mike, do you want to?
Great. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. For the record, my name is Mike Dennehy. I'm the general manager for the Northeast region for Volta Charging. Volta is in 24 states. We've got over 2,900 screens. We've delivered 141 million miles of electrons to people. And as Kristen talked about, because of our unique business model with the revenue coming from advertising, we offer, these are 2 L2 stations that we're proposing, up to 10 kilowatts per hour. Average shopper dwell time 30 to 45 minutes. You could come out with another 20 to 30 miles on your battery. There's approximately 50 stations in Connecticut right now. As Kristen talked about, the NEVI plan was adopted by the joint DOE-DOT last Thursday. 35 states' plans were adopted, including Connecticut. Connecticut will be getting $7 million this year and a total of almost $55 million for electric vehicle charging infrastructure. So Volta is working with the Connecticut DOT on that. The 84 corridor, Route 7, Route 202 corridor, specifically New Milford, the Danbury Exit 5, Exit 22 up in Waterbury, they're looking for more fast charging. These are going to be L2s. We don't saturate the area, as Kristen said. Most of our locations have two, one at an exit or an entrance to the property. We maintain them. It's turnkey. We pay for all the electricity, the installation, the engineering. We do everything. A lot of the charging companies do not do that. They sell that to the property, and there's no maintenance that goes along with that. So we've got a technician that works the area. It's a pretty successful model. We're starting to grow, and this is one of the communities where we really think it would be an amenity. We do have a new initiative that's out. Obviously, you're familiar with the Southbury Plaza. It's called the Store Next Door campaign, where we would offer advertising for some of the local shops in the plaza that they could also use the screens, try to keep the tax dollars closer, so.
Thank you. Any questions for Bob?
I see on your placement drawing in the plaza that these charging stations, there's just 2 of them, I see?
I think it's
Yes,
saying more, right?
we're only proposing 2 charging stations.
Right.
Correct.
And at least one of them is right adjacent to handicap. Do these charging stations take over any existing handicap spots?
No, so we're not looking to replace any existing spots. We are not taking any space for handicap spots. There's no decrease in the number of parking area on site.
Are they accessible for somebody who has mobility impairments?
So you want to talk a little bit more?
Yes, they are, yes.
So where would somebody be able to use their wheelchair and be able to plug in their vehicle?
So normally, I don't know if these drawings depict it, but we tend to put them on the island away from it, so there's access to that door for vans or any type of accessibility.
But it's a normal sized parking spot, right? There's no wheelchair
Right.
unloading or
Did you see the
path.
pictures?
I did see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the reason that there's no path, like the buffer zone, right, is because then we would need to suck up more parking spaces and there would be like a net decrease for the plaza. But to Mike's point here, where the stations will be located is on an island, not in the parking area. So there will be like additional accessible space, right? It's not gonna meet like the full requirements because then we would be taking up.
Well, my
Parking
question would be,
spaces.
how would somebody with a wheelchair be able to plug in their electric vehicle?
So to comment on the station fixtures themselves, the fixtures are accessible such that they will be no more than 38.5 inches off of the ground, and then also the reach over the curb will be compliant with ADA guidelines. However, without an access aisle shown, that would not provide clear floor space for someone in a wheelchair in that example.
Thank you.
How often do you find, oh, sorry, Ron, you want to go first? Go ahead.
Yeah, I noticed it's on the island, right? How many of these are you putting in?
So 2 charging stations. So one charging station will be located on one landscaped island, and then a few landscaped islands down, there'll be another charging station as well.
So there's one on, like where the prescription door is, and there's one where the general door is, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah, you saw the pictures, right?
That picture
Yeah.
just shows one.
Page 24 shows the actual place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, the picture is that's all right. I don't take offense to that. We just figure more is more helpful. But the picture you're looking at is a rendering of how it would look. The site drawings depict just the 2 stations that we're proposing in the locations.
And it's only one side, right? So only one vehicle can charge at a time.
Yes, that's correct.
It's a big limitation. How long is the average vehicle parked to be charged?
She just said that.
That's a great question. So it all depends on the dwell time. We try to limit it. We put signage up that says no more than 2 hours. Most of the locations in the site partners limit it to an hour before the store opens and an hour after the store closes so that people aren't loitering. But we try to hold the 2 hours.
Okay, and that'll get you an 80% charge on your vehicle.
2 hours would get you about 60 miles on a normal vehicle. These come out at about 10 kilowatts. The fast chargers that everyone's talking about now, you can get a full charge in a half an hour.
Wow.
These are L2s.
These are not fast chargers.
They're not fast chargers, no.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jason? Oh, sorry, Robert, come right to you.
Oh, okay. I had a couple of questions. You mentioned the advertising. There's obviously, you said there's audio with that advertising?
No, there's no audio. They're silent.
And the other question that I have a problem, you know, a lot of us gonna look at, know nothing about these machines. If you encounter a problem, with, when you hook up your car, or attempt to hook up your car, who's responsible then? Does Stop and Shop come out and deal with that problem?
No, that's Volta. It's displayed on the units. There's an 800 number. We have 24/7 customer service. Anything from someone's cord that won't disengage, or they see graffiti on the machine, or, you know, for whatever reason. We maintain all of that. We're turnkey.
Jason?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. You seemed to allude to it a little bit in your last answer. Are these on 24/7, or do they only operate during store hours?
So they have the ability to be on 24/7. However, that's really up to the town of Southbury. If you feel like you would like to limit that so that they're only on an hour before the store opens, an hour after the store closes, we can certainly do that. We've agreed to those conditions in other municipalities before. It really depends on what the town's interested in and, you know, what you're all willing to accept.
Okay, and kind of piggybacking on that, on the rendering that kind of shows the dusk version of it, it's a relatively bright kiosk, and it is not small. Traffic in that plaza, at least from my perspective, when I'm going in and out, is dicey as it is. So are there any concerns about sight lines coming around those corners? Have you seen any history in some other plazas you were in where you've had to make modifications or change the original plans to make sure that, you know, someone with a carriage wasn't getting clipped coming around the corner?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'll have Mike address some of it too. In terms of the brightness, the rendering probably is a little bit brighter for sure, just so that you can see it. There's an ambient level, and they auto dim, right? So, you know, as it gets cloudier or darker, the brightness of the display will change. In terms of traffic, they're located further away from, in this particular case, from the main aisles through the plaza and closer to the building entrance. Volta has not seen any recorded incidents of you know, any kind of traffic issues associated with the displays on this, and they actually have commissioned like an evergreen traffic study for another Connecticut municipality that showed something similar. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
No, that's it, essentially. Another community in Connecticut asked us to do that. There was a big concern about distracted driving taking place, especially in a parking lot. They went out and did a traffic survey in that parking lot and found it not to be an issue. We went back to corporate. There's never been an issue that we know of about distracted driving from the screens.
So should we set a precedent and we become the first municipality to do have an issue with it? What would be some potential recourse that you guys maybe would be interested in? If we find that for one reason or another we are having some safety issues, would there be the opportunity to come back and maybe move it to another place, or is once it's set, it's done?
I won't say once it's set, it's done, but we have re-engineered many projects before that may have not been placed in the right direction. The screens tend to not focus. It's hard to see from the renderings. The screens tend not to focus on the right-of-way, but more so the foot traffic coming in and out. And yeah, it's that 8-second flip of the screen is set to FHW standards. It's not something that keeps changing and distracts a pedestrian as well, but.
So does it dim itself at night slowly?
It does, yeah. It's like your phone. It's auto dimming.
How many lumens?
2,500 during the day, and we can dim it to about 1,400 or turn it off.
Nits or lumens?
Nits.
How many lumens?
It's about, I think it's a lumen per nit. I think they're the same.
What's that?
I think lumens and nits are roughly the same number.
I don't. think
So
that's
2,500 during the day and nighttime, whenever we want it to.
Yeah, it could be off, but they tone down to 1,400.
Okay. I noticed on the diagram, when I blew it up, it says EV charging only. I have to ask, because I know what's gonna happen. How often does someone park in there and say, you know, the heck with you, we don't care, we're parking next to this close to the door? And you know when no one gets to charge their car?
Too often for us,
Yeah, I can imagine.
as a whole. We do have site partners that work with us on that because it is an amenity that brings people to the store. Our free electrons bring people to the store, and that's the last thing they want.
Because you know that first spot, everyone fights for that first spot. Me, I park way away from everybody, I'm walking, because I'm gonna dig in my car, you know?
I was talking to Kristen. I went to North Haven today to Electrify America, and there was a combustible engine parked in the charging spot because it was at the front door. So it's not something,
So
not something
what
we
do you
frown
do
away
for
from.
that? 'Cause I'm sure we'll hear complaints all the time about it, or, so what have your solutions been for that?
So we work through that 800 number. They're willing to work with that. We don't call the police or anything, but a lot of the sites patrol that themselves.
So the owner of the plaza, Chris, would have to figure something out, I think.
Right.
Okay.
And we would work with them on that.
So here's what we have to do at this point. So this was a referral from the zoning commission. I'll come back to everyone's questions. We have to have it sent out to our planner for evaluation. And then they come back with their, their viewpoints, their recommendations, what they think, going forward. And then we make our referral back to the zoning commission, positive or negative in that case. And then from there, we'll probably have this done at some point in the next couple of weeks or less. It would probably be like a month or so before we get it back on maybe October schedule, right, Deb, we think, or November?
Yeah.
Earlier? It depends on how quick the SLR does it for us.
Okay.
But that's required by the town, so we have to do it.
I really appreciate that.
Yep.
I spent 27 years in government until February. I appreciate all the volunteerism, putting yourself out there for an election. We appreciate all of this. It's part of what we do, and we understand it. And I just want to thank you for hearing us this evening. And
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
This is exciting. Good stuff. Robin?
It says here the maximum height is 7.5 feet, and then does that include the island or the island that elevates it even further?
That doesn't include the island.
We're looking at like at least 8 feet maybe?
I don't think the landscaped island is up a foot. I think it's 6 inches, but I will say that 7.5 feet, that accommodates some other EV infrastructure too. So what we have heard, doing this around the state is, well, we want to make an amendment that will accommodate like the standard EV specs. And as you see, you probably see a lot of EV chargers, right? They're all pretty tall because of the fiber and the equipment that has to go in them. So that height is like an industry standard. It'll accommodate that.
So there'll be like 8-foot, towers.
They're units, right? So.
If I could make one recommendation, knowing that you're all civil servants, if you get a chance, if you're near Ridgefield, go take a look at them. The other committee that we referred to, one of the vice chair of that went up to Ridgefield and said, not inappropriate, not obstructive, and not obtrusive. So, but you have to kind of see it. The renderings don't do a great justification of what they look like. But
Is it in the Stop and Shop class?
it is Cops Hill. Yep.
And do you folks only manufacture the L2 you called it?
No, we have DC Fast as well.
Any reason why you don't recommend that for this?
It's kind of cutting edge for our company, the DC Fast, and you need separate power supplies. There's so much of a draw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just in case, I'm sure someone will ask.
Yeah, and then what we have to do is it's like the size of your equipment over there, and then we have to house that as well.
Right.
And there's been some problems with our site partners of finding a place to put those
Okay.
safely.
Robert?
One more question for you. Worst case scenario, really bad winter storm, a lot of snow. Who's responsible for making sure that everything is cleared and that it's safe access to the equipment?
That's the site partner. That's part of our agreement with the site partner. More often than not, snowplow operators like to plow stuff up against the median. I was a public works commissioner in Boston. That's one of the hats I wore, and we had constant battles with private plows putting stuff where it wasn't supposed to go. It's an agreement that we have, that it's maintained so that spot is accessible.
So the owner of the Stop and Shop Plaza would have his team make sure it's clean?
Correct.
Okay. That works.
Volta has a lease with the owner of the plaza, so that lease addresses some of these concerns.
Okay, anybody else, questions for okay, Robert?
In the renderings, I didn't see that you don't normally place bollards around the whole.
Good question.
So that's a great question. We haven't, but we are willing to, and we actually deployed in Torrington last year, and they requested bollards around there for the snowplow. So we added those, and we're willing to do that if. Look, one of them, both of them have bollards, or just one? It must be the location of
Some
the
have those,
concern.
right, in the past?
Again, these are our assets, right? We maintain these. We don't want them getting hit. And
I'm sorry, was there a picture somewhere about what an example of the bollard that you use?
We use all different types. I can get renderings to the planning director.
Pretty offensive.
I mean, you have the standard, 3-foot yellow ones.
Yeah, I like those yellow ones right there that are
Right.
pretty nasty.
Yeah, and then we've done gray ones, we've done some that look like almost bike racks. We have a variety of them that we put, they're not bike racks, but,
I'm sure this
yeah.
commission will.
There's some metal, there's concrete,
That
there's,
one anyway.
yeah.
Just
But
as
if
an example.
bollards are requested, we'll certainly make that part of the project.
Maybe you can just show us a few
What's
ideas.
the safety hazard if they do get struck? Like, how serious of an incident is it? What are we talking about for voltage? Like,
Yeah, it's a 240 volt system. So picture an electric dryer in the parking lot. So there isn't a large safety concern if they do get struck. Like any kind of electrical utility, don't touch it. Stay clear.
Will it go off automatically if somebody does hit it?
Very good question, I'll get you that.
there's gotta be some sort of breaker.
You would think so, right?
It should trip.
I would think.
Yeah.
If that would make sense. That would be terrible if somebody, a kid walked over there and. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, you said you're only gonna put ballards around, near one, not the other?
We can do them on both. The current rendering just has them on one,
Yeah, I would think in order to protect your property, you'd want them on, at least one on each one, so nobody drives over the island and hits you.
So something attractive looking would be okay.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
The yellow ones are.
Again, we work with the municipality to work all that stuff out.
And if you would like, if the commission would like us to provide some updated materials, or do you want us to provide them to your planner,
would be great.
we can do that.
Sure.
Okay, sure.
You just email right to land use, that's fine.
Sure.
We'll get them to the consultants, that's fine. Nance, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Are you proposing any additional signage to let people know when they approach the plaza?
Oh, signage coming into the plaza that there's charging vehicles
Any
there?
other additional signage?
No, just the 2 signs at the station, and then what we do is we paint thermoplast the parking spots to let people know that that's a charging
Saw
spot.
that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And also, is this a universal connection? Because I know that some of these charging stations, only 3 types of cars can use it.
Very good question, yeah. Volta chargers charge all types of vehicles.
Okay. And my other question was, you'll submit a copy of the traffic study that you performed?
We could, yes, yep, that's,
Please include
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Okay. And because they're 8 feet tall, we want to make sure, and I'm sure SLR will talk about sight lines when someone is turning.
Yeah.
Is that going to be an obstruction? Sight lines and.
all very good questions.
Some of these charging stations require additional voltage, and they dig up the parking lot, and they have
That's
to.
what we were just talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, and so is that necessary? Is the voltage there for you, or?
It is, we usually draw it from the power on site.
And is that adequate in,
It is,
At this
yep,
site?
at this site.
okay. That's
So
all I
are
have.
these chargers where you flip the switch and they automatically go to the ones that are more rapid, or it's a totally different unit?
It's a different unit, yeah.
Okay.
As technology changes, can these be upgraded at all, or they have to be replaced?
They certainly can, and if you look at the Connecticut DOT plan for charging in Connecticut, there are multiple locations where they have chargers in, let's say, 84, we've got 10 at the Waterbury. We could turn 4 of those. What they're looking for is 4 fast chargers every 50 miles on, they call them the alternate fuel corridors. So we could take 4 of our L2s at that location and change them into DC fast chargers for Connecticut DOT.
So is most of your business just municipalities, or are you kind of partnering? Because this is a big competitive space, right? There are a lot of companies in this space.
Very big, getting bigger.
Charge point, there are a
Yeah.
lot of companies out there.
One that just moved to.
Right, and, some of the car manufacturers are making deals with some of them, like GM just made a big deal with one of them, right? So are you folks in that same space, or no?
No, we're kind of unique, and I think imitation is the largest form of flattery. One of our competitors is talking about going to screens to make it a little more sustainable we subsidize or give electrons away for free. And I think a lot of our competition is just they're selling electrons.
Anybody else?
When you say that they can be turned off at night, do you mean just the video display, or do you mean the entire charging station?
Yeah, I believe it's everything, but can we leave the chargers on and turn the screens off? No?
I can find out.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Larry, anything?
And is there the video display on both sides?
There is.
Okay.
And the units are fed from 2 different pieces of conductors in the same conduit for the screens and the charging separately. So I'm not sure if it's possible if we could have one on or the other, but one thing to consider at night, no one's shopping at Stop and Shop, and so we won't want people loitering around the plaza after business hours charging if the screens are off. So that's just one consideration.
Shut them off, come back on in the morning.
Yes.
Larry? Sorry, Robert.
Are there safety issues in operating inclement weather, like pouring rain? Generally, electricity and water don't really mix well.
Yeah, I haven't heard of any issues. The connectors for EV cars are, I'm not going to call them rugged, but when you plug it in, there's not going to be any kind of seams where water can really seep in and cause any issues like that. So it's a really tight connection there.
Robert?
Shopping center parking lots, that could be an issue as far as safety is concerned. Are there any locations that request video surveillance for these type of stations?
Not to my knowledge, no. And we're starting to get into the public right-of-way as well. We've signed a deal with the city of Hoboken. We're going to put 25 chargers on the public right-of-way. I'm not sure if those come with that, but for the most part, we're in the retail commerce space in parking lots, and we're in some garages and.
Robert?
I think you mentioned that your business model is that it's advertising supported, so there's no fee. Is that forever, or will there ever be a fee to charge?
So the DC fast charges, because they're pulling so much electricity, there's demand charges that are involved. It's very hard to give free charging at the fast level when you're given, probably 75, right? We can subsidize the cost of it to the EV users, but when you're given 75, 150 kilowatts per hour, it's a lot.
Yeah. Anybody else? Oh, thank you, folks. Appreciate it. Not that we're shutting you down, but we're pretty much stopped at this point because we have to get our review done, and then we'll have, I'm sure, some more questions, and then, put a final thing together for the referral back to zoning.
Oh,
Thank you, Jen.
actually,
Okay.
can I just,
Sure.
one more thing? What other additional lighting is on the kiosk?
There is no other additional.
There's
light.
nothing underneath? There's no, sort of strip on the bottom?
No, there's a strip on the side that will go blue when it's activated.
Okay.
And then there might be a line underneath, like where the display meets the pad.
You can
Yeah.
see it in the picture.
Okay. So no other, linear lighting to show underneath or anything like
Yeah.
that? Okay.
By far the best conversation I've had about this. All the questions are relevant and something that we've heard throughout and collectively.
7.5 feet tall, but how wide is it thick?
Yeah, probably,
It can't be any more than 6 inches.
yeah, it might be 8, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of cool. The dimensions are on the very way back in the presentation, more toward the end, I think it was. Or maybe at the beginning. I went through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are the dimensions?
It's 85 by 36.5 by 15.5.
So it's 3 feet.
55-inch media display, charge up to 30 miles per hour. Universal connection, cable management, fully networked. It's all here on the spec page, right here in the L2 station.
Missed that page, thank you.
All right. So let's see, October the 18th, we'll put you on the schedule for.
Okay.
And we'll push the consultants to try to get it done quickly for us. And
Okay.
then we will, if you have any questions in the interim, we'll get them to you as well, so you can be ready for that. And then,
So they need to send stuff to you.
yes.
We don't have a planner.
Yep, so-
Yeah, I know, Ty left, right?
Yeah.
So we'll get it as soon as we can. Is there a deadline for that 18th meeting?
Well, he's in the process of reviewing what you've already,
Right.
Okay,
what you have here, so if you have additional, if you can get it to me ASAP,
okay.
and I
Will
can
do.
send it off to them, yeah.
That would be great. If we, maybe some different options for, the bollards, right? And then
come off, Bob? That was about it, right?
I have the different options for the bollards, the traffic, details, the details on whether we can turn the screens off and keep the chargers on. Anything else?
Shielding for the lights.
Commission was going to want to hear from Chris, the owner, regarding, will they be off or not, which, so we have on the record, that they'll be on or off.
Okay.
And I'm sure he wants them off at night. I wouldn't, sure they want someone in there at night, but just so we get everything buttoned up tightly. Okay?
Yeah, I'm curious about the
Yeah.
lighting.
The lighting in terms of the levels?
Yeah.
The
Okay.
lumens, that would be great too. Excellent. And then, so we'll see you on the 18th, October, 7 o'clock, right here, same room.
Great. Thank you very much.
Folks.
Have a good evening.
Appreciate it. All right, let's see here. Members' reports. Anybody?
Just report on the Affordable Housing Subcommittee met, and I have to say, it was the most prepared committee or commission I have ever experienced.
Good.
Everyone did their homework, everyone reviewed the affordable housing plan that we adopted, and Bob has some additional information, action that was taken.
Right, so we looked at the affordable housing plan, and there are some directives within the plan that charge the subcommittee with moving forward, and rather than just sit and spin our wheels and kind of wait for direction from planning, we want to get our homework done. So we tried to pick something that was like low-hanging fruit. One of the recommendations in that was to promote and educate the public on accessory dwelling units. That is something that has already been approved by us and zoning. So what I've offered to do is, and I've already done this, I've gone to third floor and I got the regs for the ADUs and what's required, what's permitted, what's not permitted, with the goal of putting something together, and obviously whatever I put together is going to go through the subcommittee and through planning for their approval, but with the eventual goal of getting it to GOSHA here in Town Hall so that we can do an e-blast out to residents just to inform them that ADUs are permissible. I think we've got to, put out the bad news that in order to make it qualify for affordable housing, you have to get into the deed restrictions. But if it's a naturally occurring,
Noah?
yeah, naturally occurring housing, that's great too. I think the goal is to provide affordable housing to residents in town, and whether it makes that 0.0001% tick on our goal, I mean, that's great, but if it doesn't, the end goal is to make it affordable for people. So, in a nutshell, I'm working on putting something together for your eventual review on ADU requirements, so.
And another purpose is to get it out to the realtors.
Yes, also to the realtors.
Excellent. All right. Perfect.
Thank you.
Well done. Okay, anybody else, any other members, any other reports of any? Okay. Let's see, any correspondence, Deb? Okay, minutes. Let's see here, there was an email just with minutes, there we are.
Motion to accept July 19th as submitted.
I'll second it.
Wait a minute, you're going too fast.
Okay.
Hold your horses. Right, so Richard
I can't vote, neither
and
can Jason.
Jason and Kim. Well, no, not Kim. She came late, but Richard and Jason can't vote. All right, so Nancy made a motion.
I'll second.
Harrison, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. August the 2nd.
Motion to approve as presented. I reviewed them all. I'm sorry, go on. Are you okay?
Kim and Jason, again, can't vote. They were absent.
Right. All right.
So So Nancy made a motion.
I'll second it. Anyone, anything? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Minutes are passed. August the 16th.
Okay, so, and that one there, Robin was an hour late.
Okay.
How dare you?
Huh,
Jeez.
been there, done that. It's okay.
All right,
Okay,
I'll make a motion to accept that.
all right. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Approved. August the 23rd.
all right, Jason was absent for that one.
I'll make a motion. Excellent, I'll second it. Anything for anyone to change? Anything? Add to? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Let's see, September the 8th.
Bob and Robin were absent.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Approved. September the 13th.
Jason was absent for that one.
Jeez, Jason.
Motion to
Got a
approve
job,
as
Jason, sorry.
presented.
I'll second it. Anybody, anything? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'd like to
Abstentions?
say, excellent job.
Yes, nicely done, Deb.
I found one plural mistake in everything. It was wonderful. Hmm?
Say what?
Are we all caught up now?
Yes.
Well organized, Deb, nicely done.
Very well done.
Let's see, any bills?
No,
Nothing, okay.
No SLR bill?
no.
Wow.
No, it was already paid. Any other business that may be properly brought before the commission?
Is your lady said?
Yes. Let's see, Affordable Housing Alliance Group. You guys are up.
Just pop that mic off there, Lisa, and just make sure it's on. And it's on. Yeah, there's a, button on the side. It should be green. It's red. Oh,
It is pressed in once.
there you go. Okay. Okay.
I'm Sharon Wirt, and I'm the president of the Southbury Affordable Housing Alliance. And this is Catherine Smith, who is the vice president. And we're not really sure what you want to know at this point. We can tell you right off that we have a parcel of land in town that we're working on an option to purchase, 9 acres. We think we can get maybe probably 20 to possibly at maximum 28 units, and they will vary in the number of bedrooms. We know from having read the SLR Affordable Housing Plan that there's a real need for 1 and 2 bedroom units. And this will attract more young people, which according to SLR, we're kind of losing, maybe not losing, I shouldn't say that, the number of young people in town is kind of decreasing. So having more 1 and 2 bedroom units will probably work to attract, some younger people. And we do want to keep, I think most of us want to keep the young people in town who are graduating from college and who want to live here, but they can't find affordable housing. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to Catherine, and then we'll field your questions.
Yeah, why don't you give us like a 30,000-foot overview quickly of, the organization, how you formed it, kind of where you're
sure.
headed,
Okay.
and just so it's on record, so we have an idea.
Sure, of course. So this organization kind of came about because we had a discussion. I'm also part of the Strategic Plan Commission, and so this came about as a work that Ron Conti was actually a critical part of this as well. At the Board of Selectmen had a list of priorities that they wanted the SPC to work on, and one of those things was affordable housing. And so we developed a white paper as part of the SPC and also did a presentation to the board and said, there is a need, as you guys know, 1.4% of the units here
in Southbury are affordable. And based on that, you know, that kind of piqued my interest. And, you know, you guys were working, the Planning Commission was working on the Affordable Housing Plan and the POCD. And I'll let Sharon expand on her side of this, but we were talking about there was a need for a grassroots organization. Sharon already had a group of people that she was working with. So as the SPC, we wanted to kind of fold in and see what they were doing, just so that one hand knew what the other hand was doing. And then as Ron being part of the Planning Commission, make sure that, you know, all entities, and that's kind of why we're here tonight, is to make sure that you guys know what we're doing, so you're not blindsided by anything that we're working on. We want you guys to be informed, and we see ourselves as one component of implementation of what you have been doing with your work with the POCD and the Affordable Housing Plan, because I know the Planning Commission is already working on a number of different initiatives with implementation and affordable housing. So essentially what we saw is there was a need for implementation, and so we became a nonprofit on May 18th, I believe, of 2022. We're formally recognized as a nonprofit organization, and with our mission to, and I hope this does not overlap with what you guys are doing, and maybe this is part of the discussion, but to educate the public about the need for affordable housing, as well as the economic benefits of affordable housing, and then also to be one component of the implementation arm. So that's our purpose here. So we're looking right now at getting some funding. And we're also looking at trying to get some grants. So there is some property that we're looking at. Obviously, before we can take any steps forward, we need to have some money so that we can possibly make this a reality. So that's kind of how I see it from the high level. So Sharon, do you have anything else to add?
Well, you know, well, I don't know if anyone's interested in how we came to be, but it really stemmed from the town conversation on race relations. And we had a wonderful moderator, a professor and attorney, an African-American woman, and she said that there were a lot of things that we could do in town to diversify the population. But she said that affordable housing, you know, was one direction to go. We went about 5 different directions, reading groups, and but the affordable housing really interested me because I had talked with people in town. One of the women I talked with works for my eye doctor, and I said, "Do you live in town?" She said, "No, I commute from Watertown." I said, "Is it because you like Watertown?" She said, "No, we want desperately to get out of Watertown. I guess there's a high crime index in Watertown. Some murders have happened. I hadn't heard anything about this, but she wants to move to Southbury, but they're having trouble finding a place. And, you know, in order to live here, you have to make about $22.50 an hour, and that's to find a very, very modest 1-bedroom. We have a lot of people in town who don't make that. And I talked with one young woman who works at a gas station. She said that she makes under $15 an hour, and there's no way she can find a place to live on her own in town. I think she's living with family right now. You know, it's a pretty desperate situation here now. There are, as you all know, if you've read the Affordable Housing Plan, that SLR, and I guess you were participating in this as well, there are some 800 people in town who are housing cost burdened, which means they're paying more than 30% of their income on housing. Some as much as 50 and 60%, and one case 70%. I don't know how she makes it. Because you do have to triage all of your necessities, and some necessities are going to be, they're going to be hard to come by. You know, you cut down on your medication, and some people use the food bank. Anyway, it's pretty dire here, but it's not just here, it's all over the country. Because they stopped building for people in the low to moderate income range. They were building, of course, for profit, the developers. Anyway, so we started out as a grassroots. That went on for 2 years while we studied the situation. We studied affordable housing, what that consisted of and didn't consist of, and the myths surrounding it, which still surround it, and are still in town. I can see on Facebook when I make posts, I can see that there's still some resistance based on the old myths. So we also want to educate people, you know, what it is, what it looks like. And I have we have a flyer that shows some affordable housing. It's well built, sustainable. We want to use solar paneling. Let's see, I wonder if there's anything else I should.
We're also talking about the form of affordable housing, so we probably want to do either single-family dwellings or possibly like townhouse.
Right, we're going to have a kind of a diversity, but right now we're looking at the townhouse situation that you can see, well, you probably can't see it very well, but it's in Salisbury, Connecticut, Sarum Village. If anybody wants to have this, you're free to keep it. We want to have very well built, using good materials. We're going to make sure about that. And because we want these houses to live for a long, long time without a lot of, you know, repair. So as Catherine said, you know, we're looking at some properties, and probably by the end of this month, we'll be ready to have a land appraiser come in and look at the 9 acres, tell us what, you know, the land is worth run.
From your statements, from your statements, it seems that you are not the developers.
Right.
You look for a piece of property, then you look for a developer to come up with a plan to come before here for how, are you finding it a problem? One of the things we have in this town, we have housing. And we probably have more housing that's affordable than people think, simply because people don't want to commit to it for 40 years. And under the present law, you've got to commit to it for 40 years.
Right.
So if I've got a commercial building on the bottom and I've got some rents upstairs that I can make some money on, I may not do it because I'm not going to limit it to 40 years. But my problem, my first question was, you people are not developers. You people you people may search out property, but you will search out a developer who will then come before this body with a plan to develop that piece of property. Am I correct?
Yes, you are, Ron, and we have an affordable housing consultant who's used by most of the affordable housing developments in Connecticut. I have yet to find one that he hasn't been part of and been instrumental in having it realized. His name is David Berto. I don't know if any of you know him. Anyway, he asked us, do we want to be developers? And my first reaction was, yow, no. You know, this sounds like a huge responsibility. We're not neophytes because we have studied, you know, the situation for 2 years, but we've never developed anything. That means looking for money, looking for all the money trees. And we, you know, that's very stressful.
Yeah.
And so we said, not this time around. You know, maybe the second time around when we know more, we'll get into this. But right now, we are looking at three developers. One is a nonprofit called Community Builders. They did the Kent affordable housing and did a beautiful job in Kent. And then there is an organization in Waterbury called, let's see if I can get this right, Neighborhood Housing Services of Waterbury. And I know the architect who's the executive director there and think very highly of him. And then, let's see, we were also thinking about the developer who did, let's see, I guess he was the one who did Calvary Church or something. I think I'd heard that Eastwood. Yeah, no.
That's not important. The fact is,
Yeah.
the only point I wanted to make was that you people were not developers.
Right.
You people would search out developers for specific pieces of property, then that developer, not you, but that developer would come before this body.
Well, I don't know how this works, Ron, but I know that when we subdivide the land, we have to have an attorney.
Yep.
And that attorney has to appear before you with the preliminary plans. And when the final plans are, if we get approved, then the final plans, I guess we will come back. And I don't know who presents that, whether it's the developer, the architect, us.
Engineer.
That's something we'll have to find out.
Engineer.
You get the developer, they'll know what to do.
Yeah.
Are you getting the land vetted before you buy it?
I'm sorry?
Are you getting the land vetted before you buy it? Make
Yes.
sure it's
Yes.
workable?
Yeah.
You don't want to buy something you can't use, right? That would be, that would be bad.
soil testing.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
definitely. It looks wonderful. I mean, according to the landowner, the soil has a good sand content, not clay. It's relatively flat. There's an area that's wooded, and we'll want to preserve as many trees as possible. He's very finicky about the looks,
We can't discuss.
and that's why we're looking at Sarum Village.
We can't discuss any
We
specific.
don't want to know where it is or what it is. We just wanted to know that you were not the developer.
Oh, okay.
That's all,
Okay.
that's.
Definitely not.
All that, you'd have to have, obviously have the attorney, make sure they
Oh,
contact the
yeah.
town and go through the process and,
Oh, yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where has your funding come from to date? Because if you're talking with a consultant, if you're doing printing, you're doing advertising, you have to pay a certain amount for your 501c to the state. Where is your funding coming from at this point?
Well, to be honest,
Private contributions at this moment.
yeah, private contributions, including from me. A lot of the initial funding came from me. But we are getting private contributions. We also have an application into Newtown Savings Bank for $10,000 to cover land appraisals, attorneys, that kind of thing.
A grant or a loan? Are you working?
It's actually a grant. It's actually a grant. And Catherine and I are applying to each of us are applying to a couple grant foundations.
That's one of our biggest struggles right now is because we know
Yeah.
there's a lot of competition out there, so.
Right.
It may end up being that we don't get grants. I'm very hopeful that we will, but we also are realistic about it, and we know that there are other organizations with the same objectives. And we may or may not get funding, so, we're just gonna apply to as many grants that are appropriate as possible and see what ends up happening and see how, and also we're sending out letters to private donors to try to get some funds. We may also try to host an event to get some funds as well. So, we're trying to take all the right steps so that we can move this forward.
And thanks to David Berto, we kind of know what paths to take. I feel very optimistic, we're working very hard on these applications, and most of the places we're applying to have as their first priority affordable housing. And everybody, I think, in the state realizes that, we have to do something about it. And so.
Oh, and some of the people that we're working with, because they know that we're a nonprofit and that we're just getting started, have said that they will defer payment until the grants come in. So that answers some of your question, Nancy, I think. So we're the idea is that they'll do some of the work on the front end with the idea that we will get some funding. Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay.
I'd like to make a comment. I think that all of these presentations, what bothers me is that we talk to people who want, from Southbury, who want to live in affordable housing because it's younger or older or single or whatever they're, and there is no prioritization for anybody from Southbury. And it's not publicized. When someone applies for residency in affordable housing, it's anybody from anywhere. It is not prioritized for Southbury residents, and it's not publicized. It's not prioritized by race. It's not prioritized by anything but who gets their application in and gets a review for their qualifications. But it does not say that people who live in Southbury are going to be so happy that they can move in there. That's not the way it works. And it doesn't seem to be part of the marketing or advertising. I think it has to be very, very clear.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, there are certain things, Nancy, there are certain things that we're learning that you can and can't do as far as fair housing, as far as, you know, we want to limit this to people who either work in town or live in town.
But they don't have priority. Southbury residents do not have priority.
I see what you're saying. You think that the residents should have priority over the people who work in town?
Over anybody.
Over anybody?
Any resident, over any residency.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
And be real clear about that because, huh? Pardon me?
I don't know if we can either, but, yeah.
Exactly. It's, Ron, you're saying exactly what I'm saying. There's no discrimination, whether you're in Southbury, whether you're, the only thing you have to do is meet the affordable housing guidelines.
Right,
It's
and,
not-
you know,
It's
this
not
is,
residency.
But if, to counter that argument, if you had affordable housing available, and the lady that's working in the gas station, or a nurse or something else knows that that housing is available.
They'll get on the list. They have to qualify and then get on the list. Yeah. Yeah,
I know, but-
there's no
but at
prioritization.
at least they'll get on the list.
Sure, anybody can get on the list, right.
No, well, it's income specifications.
Anyone who qualifies, yes. So I just want to make that sure. Another thing that we have to be very careful on our commission, we cannot make any predetermination, any,
Yeah.
any preference for any kind of an application except what we see on paper. Except when the engineer comes in, or the attorney, or the application comes in. We cannot, we put ourselves open to any suit. If we have any kind of, yeah, that looks good, we can't do that. That's our purview.
Okay.
We have to be very careful about that.
Okay, yeah.
I believe that we would need to have like a pre-meeting with this group as well as we get a little bit further along, just to make sure that we know exactly what steps we need before we make our official presentation. Is that correct?
Yes, but it's not with a predetermined, pre-application meeting is not with the commission.
Okay,
It's with the planning staff.
okay,
Yeah, if we have staff.
okay.
If we have a planner, if not, it'll be with a consultant we hire.
Okay, okay, all right, good. We'll just make sure that we're, we keep you all appraised of where we are and things, and, just that we know what we need to do next, and we make sure that everybody's on board as best as you can be. And, that we're complying with everything that the Planning Commission needs.
Great attorney, they'll know the
Okay.
process.
Okay, perfect, all right.
They'll know
Yeah.
exactly what to do and how to contact the office, and they should be able to walk you through it.
We just want to be very open and transparent with the commission, just make sure that we're not stepping on any toes, and, we're trying to do everything the right way, so,
Thank you,
yeah.
appreciate
All right, and we appreciate you guys, so thank you.
Oh, yes, and, and everybody should probably knows this already, but this is a very slow-moving process, which is very frustrating to those of us who know that there are people who are so desperately needing to have their financial situation improved. It's so difficult to go with the slow waltz that this process entails. But we are trying to move as quickly as we can. And but you know, if you have any other questions, we'd be happy to answer them at any time. And, you know, I can leave my email address, Catherine can leave hers with you. I think
It would
Nancy,
probably be best if we directed all the questions, right, you know, to land use,
The staff.
right, right to Deb or
Yeah.
when the planner's hired. So it keeps it more organized that way.
yeah.
Because once you send an email out or send information, it's public record, right? We have to keep record of all.
Oh, okay,
So not to individuals,
Right.
to the
Oh,
office.
okay.
Yeah.
okay. Good.
What's the name of your
Do you want this
501c?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Keep it?
hold on.
Okay.
What's the name of your 501c? It's not-
Sorry? What's the name of the 501c3?
Yeah.
The Southbury Affordable Housing Alliance, Inc.
Okay.
So projects of your organization will pretty much remain just in Southbury? Right, okay. All right, any more questions? Oh, Ron? Oh. Motion to, oh.
Ron's got places to be.
I know, yes. All right, thank you both very much tonight, appreciate it.
Oh, we thank you.
All right, Ron, motion to adjourn. Second it, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned.
Did you have anything from COGS for us?
Nope, not until October 4th.